I am only 26. I am the youngest minister in Botswana and the youngest minister in the continent. This is my call to action to every president to always ensure that we're also making room for these young women so that they can be strong and fit to lead when the time is right, and the time is right now.
Before we start, I think it's very African and very important that we give the mic to our host so that she confirms that we are warmly welcome in her space, and that the deliberations we'll be holding this afternoon shall continue with her blessing. Madam Gladys, Your Excellency.
We are quite excited as a country which is part of the co-facilitation of the revitalization of the Commission on the Status of Women. We feel it was fitting to actually go on this journey together, because we'll use this platform as well to gather further contributions to how we can revitalize the status of women. But much more importantly as well, to really hear unique voices as well this afternoon from both the Children's Investment Fund and Faith to Women. Of course, African Renaissance as well, with its continental perspective. With that, I just want to say, Dinja Timuhelensu. It means welcome.
I would like to invite Her Excellency Madam Boemo Sekoma, the SADC Parliamentary Forum Secretary General, to come and read out the bio of our Honorable Minister before we begin the main panel discussion.
Honorable Lesego Chombo, who is a specially elected Member of Parliament and the Minister of Youth and Gender Affairs in Botswana. Minister Chombo was recently elected as the chairperson of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. As the youngest minister in Africa, aged 26 years, she continues to be a driving force of mindset change, proving that young people are capable, equipped, ready to revolutionize this region.
Because we all know that CSW 69 comes at a point where, as a global community, we need to reflect on the achievements that we have all made as nations since 1995, as well as to consider the current challenges and look at them really to see how we can implement better actions to combat these said challenges. And so let me just start by sharing the Botswana story. Our journey really started in 1995, like most countries who participated at the Beijing conference. Immediately following that, in 1996, we embarked on an intense exercise of legislative reforms. We did embark on those legislative reforms where laws that discriminated women were repealed and new ones were enacted. And you can be rest assured that more will be coming until we are fully cushioned to really curb violence and gender inequality. There has been the establishment of the Women's Affairs Department, and this was in the early 2000s. This was later renamed the Gender Affairs Department in 2013, and this is the department in which I serve. I often get into many rooms where men say they feel so left behind, and they do think that they can actively contribute to causes that affect women. They play an active role, and so when this ministry was renamed to the Gender Affairs Department, it was cognizant of the contributions that men take, but also the importance of realizing that gender equality goes both ways. One of the other institutional arrangements was the National Policy on Gender and Development, which was also adopted in 2015 to guide gender mainstreaming. And when we speak of girls in education, I would like to highlight that Botswana reached parity in 2010. And in order to demonstrate commitment, government has ceded to critical international and regional instruments such as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of women in Africa, which we know as the Maputo Protocol. Now, Botswana has also made significant progress in protecting and advancing the rights of women and vulnerable groups by introducing administrative and legal reforms. I think that every time we speak of violence, we always note that there's need to create a conducive environment for victims, a need to create a conducive environment for survivors so that they can be facilitated accordingly. And this is one of the important administrative reforms that have been made. We have also, as the Republic of Botswana, experienced the first appointment of females in key positions, such as the Minister of Finance, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Permanent Secretary to the President, the Commissioner of Prisons, and lately the Commissioner of Police, as well as the Botswana Unified Revenue Service Commissioner. I stand here also as a beneficiary of appointments that have been afforded to women. I am only 26. I am the youngest minister in Botswana and the youngest minister in the continent. This is my call to action to every president. This is my call to action to every country, that as we speak of making room for women, we want to always ensure, but we're also making room for these young women so that they can be sustained, mentored, taught, so that they can be strong and fit to lead when the time is right, and the time is right now. The Botswana Police Service has established a dedicated cybercrime unit to investigate and prosecute cybercrime cases, including online gender-based violence. Now, gender has been mainstreamed in the school curriculum, and efforts on reintegration of girls into school after pregnancy thus far has benefited 5,062 girls from 2012 to 2022. I always give this example that if children feel like they can't be entrepreneurs, it's because growing up they were told, go to school, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, go be a nurse, go be an engineer. Nobody ever told them the power of entrepreneurship. And we've reached a point now where we need our young people and our children to be taught practical hands-on skills that are relevant to the labor markets. And this cuts across all sectors and it cuts across all countries. And so I think that this enrollment and participation of girls in science, technology, and mathematics is exactly the bridging gap that we need. We speak of not having women in leadership and in politics. Do we teach them when they're young? There's a saying in Botswana, and there's a saying biblically. There's sayings, it's a typical saying. I think it's across all cultures. And when you teach a child a way to go, it's very hard for them to depart from it.
And thank you for helping us reflect and remember the 12 critical areas of concern that are bringing us to New York today, 30 years down the line, as we think about the future.
The previous generation used to handle it in a particular way. So when they came, they started looking at me, policing my hair, policing my clothes, policing, and I said, no, we don't police women anyway, and we will not police them in this gender spaces. So we should allow things to change with the times, and I'm looking at the young minister to help us change that with the times. My second message is around the 12 critical areas. As one of the youngest directors at the African Union Commission, I kept on saying, when there was a conversation around Beijing, I said, I remember when people were speaking about Beijing, I was probably at primary school and I couldn't care less about what was Beijing. I just remember that it made a lot of noise. But it amazes me that here we are 30 years later, I'm speaking about Beijing, and I'm just like, guys, but our parents were there doing Beijing. What have we learned from what our parents or our grandmothers were talking about when they came to the Beijing conference to where we are now? So our parents were there. They managed to take us to this conversation where we are now. We took the baton from them, and I'm the generation that is currently holding the baton. And there's a generation of the minister that are ready to pick up the baton and from us. But the biggest question is, what are we going to bequeath to the next generation, and what are they going to take forward in terms of the Beijing platform? The AU has a mandate. Our mandate is normative framework. So we come up with these big policies, nice policies. There's quite a lot of things that we're championing at the African Union Commission on financial inclusion for women, on the Maputo, the convention that was adopted, and a number of other things, Agenda 2063. But the most important thing is how these policies then are taken, and I'm looking at the Member of Parliament, how are they domesticated at country level, and then they become something that benefits the women and the young girls at the country level. This opportunity to share what our transformed future could look like, and affirm that what got us here is not what will keep us here or what will get us there. We have a core responsibility to lay the groundwork for a future where women and girls across the continent can thrive in dignity. But the Africa that we want is one that will transform the lives of African women and young people. It shall be the one where we are integrated and we've got integrated policies that drive sustainable development, public engagement. It empowers communities and co-creates solutions and innovative initiatives that spark cultural and economic renaissance that liberates all of us.
What's your vision for the Africa that you would like and we would like to bequeath the next generation?
A lot of things have been done, or progress have been made towards universal access to education. There have been some improvements in access to sexual reproductive health service, increase in number of women in decision making through appointments or in the parliament. A number of countries in SADC have been made significant strides forward towards necessary legislative reforms to promote gender equality. Despite these improvements, a lot more is yet to be done. COVID has rolled back our progress and we are now pulling up our socks. Climate change is also taking us backwards, increasing poverty and inequality. So the recent Women's Day theme, Accelerating Progress, was therefore appropriate. We do not only need to push for gender equality, but to accelerate progress. Let us remember that each day with gender inequality is a day lost for development. You also need you people, you youth, to be ready. People of my age, no matter what, we are now passing out. You are coming, but you are going to lead this world when you are ready and when you can represent it very well. All governments of Africa, and if I may say SADC, are ready to see that the youth are taking up positions. So in my country, we say that what matters is how mature and how ready one is able to run the position and handle it well. May I request all of you to see that women can perform. When we talk of our countries, let us also look of the numbers. My country has a population of 62 million and 52% are women. So if we decide anything, we as women, we are going to manage.
We want to talk about progress of how are we going to move forward, looking at our issues across the continent. Because I'm trying to encourage women to say we must stand up for our rights. If we want our rights to be heard, we must fight for them, so that you push to be a legislature at the end, because they need our motivation. They need our experiences. We should also bring boy child along, because I think some of these things, some of the GBV, maybe they are done by these boys who are angry, they are hurt because they feel they've been neglected. The raising up was never enough and they're comparing themselves with a girl child. So I'm appealing to you to say, let's hold the boy child on the other hand.
The Africa we want requires us as a global community and family of women and girl children to take it upon ourselves to ensure that we apply the pressure and the guidance to our governments for full gender mainstreaming on our continent into every aspect of governance. Education that gives the girl child access, benefits of STEM, a safe learning environment, and an environment that will ensure that whether you are a girl child, a boy child, or a child living with disabilities, you have an opportunity for self-actualization that will drive the development in your country. We want mainstreaming of gender that will ensure that land allocation in our countries benefits the women who are the main food producers on our continent, so that they themselves can manage the land in a sustainable way that it can be used by next generations and is not being sold out to private sector industries that are actually damaging it and contributing to our climate change. We want mainstreaming of gender into financial, trade and economic policies that will ensure equal opportunity and use of resources for all women and for the girl child. We want mainstreaming of gender into health that will ensure that the health and well-being of women and the girl child is secured, so that we do not continue to have the girl child being the primary recipient of HIV/AIDS on our continent, despite the fact that we have the solutions on how to protect this child, the girl child and the children that she's going to have, to ensure that the girl child on the African continent does not continue to be unprotected from malaria, which is killing her children.
all the under 5 children that we are talking about that are dying on the African continent from malaria are children of youth, young women. We want the mainstreaming of gender to be so effective that when we talk about the Africa we want an Africa that does not tolerate and does not provide for and have all the legal frameworks and programs that are going to protect our women from violence in all its forms, including the cyberbullying that the Honorable Minister talked about. So what I am proposing is that let us focus on mainstreaming gender. Let us have budgets that are gender sensitive. Let us have gender audits for every single sector so that we measure the impact of what we are doing and what our governments are committing to do.
I was 10 when Beijing was happening, and there was a lot of uproar in the country. I come from Kenya, and I remember the women's movement at the time really coming back energized and really committed to seeing how they can create national chapters at a national level, at a local level, on enhancing gender equality and women's empowerment. And I am a product of the strong women who went to Beijing. I'm doing my best now to also mentor younger girls so that we build an Africa that we want, that has empowered girls, that are free from harmful practices, that live lives of dignity and can pursue the futures that they want. We work on girls' education, really looking at keeping girls in school, not just at the primary and secondary level, but ensuring they also get to tertiary levels that would ensure them that they get the right employment or opportunities that they need to enhance their careers. We believe that investing in girls is investing in Africa's future. When we are saying that we need to work on all the agendas that have been created for us on gender equality, from the SDGs, from Agenda 2063, we are saying we cannot do this in siloed efforts. We have to work in concert. We work on the issue of education, keeping girls in school with some of our civil society partners, like CampFed in Malawi and Zimbabwe, like SHOFCO in Kenya, really looking at eliminating some of the barriers that prevent girls from staying in school. So bursaries for education, menstrual health management, that also impacts girls' lives. We also look at the issue of water and sanitation because we know this could be a key barrier for girls. It's been 30 years after Beijing. It's 38 years to the end of Africa Agenda 2063. So how do we get where we want to go? One of the strategies that we are working on is, instead of short-term funding, we are providing longer and fewer core grants to organizations to enhance their financial sustainability.
And as we are just coming to a wrap of this session, understanding the religious perspective, because that's where society dwells.
I will say a sentence and tell me who has ever heard about this. There is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free. There is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Jesus Christ. Anyone heard about this before? Yes, sir? Galatians. Yeah, Galatians. Yeah, correct. It's Galatians 3:28. Another question. A person came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked, "O Messenger of Allah, who is most deserving of my fine treatment?" And he answered, your dots, and then your father. Who are in these dots, please? So he said, your mother, and then your father. What do these verses mean? Both of them speak on the equal dignity of all human beings, regardless of their race, gender, class, or origin. Over these, it gives the priority of women in respect and fine treatment. These concepts were developed and expressed a long time ago. Actually, the book of Galatians were written by Apostle Paul 2,000 years ago, and the hadith by Prophet Muhammad, it's on the 6th or 7th century. The idea of gender equality is very, very old idea. As Christians, we should not speak about Beijing 30 years ago, rather than look into Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And as Muslims, we don't think about Beijing. We need to go back to Mecca 1,500 years ago. Women's rights and gender equality are deeply rooted in our religion. All Africans pray almost every day, and most of us go to worship places, different worship places, once a week. Between 30 and 60% of our services, health services in Africa, it's faith-based led. The best school in Africa is run by faith organizations, especially the Catholic one. Right now, example as Eastern Congo, having the whole health services provided by the faith institution, and the state is totally absent from this. So, in your opinion, is it easier to convince people about women's rights and gender equality by using their familiar and respected Holy Bible or Quran, or should we use the technocratic documents written by lawyers or politicians? All the respect to them, of course, but we need to go back to our roots. We need to use our verses, because actually faith institutions having all the respect, having all the trust from people, and also having lots of resources that can be utilized. We have all our holy scriptures. We have our congregational groups as women group, men, youth, choir, or Sunday schools. We have places of worship. We have schools and health centers. We have radio stations and TV channels. We have to get used of all of these, utilize this to serve and promote, uphold women's rights.
We have heard about the noble gains that Botswana has achieved over time. We've also had the noble vision and intentions, which I think really continue to underline the fact that our state, whether it's Tanzania, whether it is Botswana or any other, they continue to aspire to attain the standards and norms that are set out in the declaration. One of the areas that may not have been said, but in between the lines, I think we are alive to the fact that patriarchy has become complex. Patriarchy has become much more flirtatious. And that at the end of the day, if we are not careful, where gains have been there, we are not going to look at how fragile those gains are over time. We've heard about the successes of Botswana. We also need to be able to follow the trends. Let us make sure that we don't find ourselves having a leader at the level of the African Union who does not have our support. Let us ensure that at the end of the day, when we look at policy and practice, it starts at the political, the personal, and also goes further into our society. A lot of times we talk about some of these issues, but we don't have desegregated data that helps leadership to be able to ask the right questions, that helps our parliaments be able to dissect and do that oversight in a manner that will ensure that policy and practice is not in vain, that the declarations that have been signed are not necessarily different on paper, and in practice we see something else. We've had various reports from the World Bank to the Economic Forum where they say we're 5 generations away from achieving gender parity. What do we need to do to make sure that women are elected to these positions of power? It is important that we do that. We need to be mindful of the fact that if we don't come together and support each other, all these dreams and the declarations will never be realized. I also believe that we must look at diversity within our interventions and support. We have women with disability. We have many other women in rural areas and many others who are not in the boardrooms. We need to ask ourselves, did we make the wrong investments by putting so much money in boardrooms and not going down there where we need to be impacting? One last thing that I'd like to say is that as we support all other young persons in leadership positions, let us make sure that microaggression is dealt away with. Let us ensure that questions around judgment of competencies are dealt with. Let us ensure that we should not mistake women's leadership, young people's leadership, and think that it is inexperienced or incompetent in any way. And these are some of the patriarchal norms that are infused in terms of us being able to doubt each other, be it on the basis of age or many other. And therefore, let me end here and say we've had a lot of insights. I could have gone on. I've written a few things that were said, but I don't think we have enough time. Just to thank you and for honoring us, Honorable Minister, and calling for support in this regard and ensuring that we are much more systematic in our support to Madam Prudence in order for them to support the Honorable Minister. Thank you very much.